iPhone and Android users, we have a free app. Download it today. AndrewHogue.com. This is AndrewHogue.com, still Australia's first and only 24/7 metal radio station. And of course, the last couple of years have been pretty difficult for a lot of artists across the globe to get back out and do what they love. And the good thing is, there's bands that are finally coming back to, coming to the land of Oz. And this band is coming to Australia for the very first time. We're talking about Avatar. And we do have Johannes Eckerström from the group ready to talk to us about the Australian tour. Of course, the band's long history as well. Some people might not be familiar with the group, but they are up to album number 9. And just going through their discography are a very, very consistent group when it comes to putting out music. And of course, a consistent, decent quality of output as well. Let's welcome Johannes to AndrewHogue.com. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. I have seen Avatar live. The very first time was 2019. I think it was July at the Commodore Ballroom with Devon Townsend opening up. And
wow.
I was wow. I was really blown away. I knew some of the past material, but to see it live, and it was literally a circus, hence the stage show, I was blown away. I was like, this band's going places. You know, I was really, really impressed with the stage show and just the whole performance. So is that something we can expect for the Australian fans on the up-and-coming Avatar Australian tour?
Yes and no, in the sense that particular build, of course, was specifically for the Avatar country era. So there's no golden throne coming up on an elevator this time. That being said, yes, indeed, we are a theatrical band, so that's something we always bring with us, and I think that's the thing with us that I kind of like in what we're doing. It's theatrical, the adjective, rather than theater, the noun. You know, I've been to the opera, I've been to ballet, and I like all of those things. But those art forms, it's a very specific goals of how, of nailing it, that also performs to a passive audience, right? But if you're a rock and roll show, that's an active audience, and it's the whole magic of capturing people where they are at in that particular moment, and then bring them to where you want to go. And that journey is always a bit unique and stuff. But that being said, we always have our bells and whistles and a little tricks up our sleeves beyond just trying to play the songs in the right key. And I mean, my sales pitch is that I truly, honestly feel that we as a band have never been better. So as long as Australia has waited, now is the time to see us. Also, I really need people to show up, because then we want to come back, but it's all dependent on how many show up this time. And we seem to be doing well, but I mean, the more, the merrier. And, because now this is our foot in the door, and we want to ultimately kick that door in. So people need to show up for that.
And like I said, it was an enjoyable show because it had that theatre aspect. And like I said, there's not a lot of bands that do it. Some bands that can are the ones that can really afford it, like an Iron Maiden show. You're going to get just massive, high-flying airplanes and things like that. But some bands today just keep it stripped back, and okay, that's their choice as well. But just seeing the group live, even same with bands like Ghost, they're just putting in that effort and really making or putting on a show. I think that's been missing for quite a few years in the land of heavy metal, and I think it's really a positive thing.
I think compared to maybe the 80s, where everybody had to have a big ass dragon animatronic on stage. Sure. At the same time, I think there's more of that now than has been before. But the magic is not just for bands to do a bunch of stuff. It has to also resonate with the music at large that you're doing. Whereas, for me, the key example of where I articulated this for myself the most was a co-headline bill of Cannibal Corpse and Behemoth that were playing in Gothenburg, and Behemoth were on first out of the two, and even the mic stands are satanic.
Yes.
And the atmosphere they build, the visual of it, how they dress, what the stage looks like, how they perform, how they sing. They're this great machine, horrifying machine that runs you over. And I'm thinking, this is the coolest thing ever. Nothing can top this. This is perfect. This is everything I needed to be, and you know, uh, all those kind of superlatives for it. Then Cannibal Corpse goes on. The backdrop was a bit too small for the stage, and it was wrinkly. They have this washed out, used to be black t-shirts. There's no real intro. They turn off the light, they turn on the light, they then say, oops, turn off the light, turn it on again.
Mm.
Then they just are out there, then they start playing. And it's so just down to earth. They look like they could have come straight from the audience up on stage to perform. And I'm thinking, this is so cool. This is perfect. Nothing can beat this. This is the most amazing thing I have ever seen. They're nailing. This is everything it's supposed to be. If you would put Camel Corpse in corpse paint with these weird pentagrams and on the mic stands and this ritualistic thing and all the smoke and noise in between songs and everything, it would be silly. Uh, it's just that in both those cases of bands that they both put on perfect sets for what they are that night. Um, I don't know, really shows it's all about finding yourself and figuring out what your music looks like, I guess, and do something that's not just put on a show, but an extension of yourself, which is, I guess, why visually everybody can remember a visually striking Iron Maiden or Judas Priest. But when it comes to, I don't know, Queensryche trying something in the 80s, no one quite wants to remember that because it never really fit, in my opinion. And although it's nothing wrong with the music, so it's about finding your home and finding yourself,
Mm.
not just in the music, but what goes along with the music.
Well, speaking of your home, of course, Gothenburg. I mean, people say it's the home of Swedish death metal. I mean, just look at the list of bands over the last 30 years that have come out of there. Just incredible. You're obviously Entombed and Dismember, all that kind of movement. How is Avatar viewed in the Swedish sort of scene these days? Because, like I said, there's just a stellar amount of great bands from that city at the gates as well. Opeth, I mean, it's huge. Swedish metal is just, I mean, people think of Sweden, they think of, death metal, same as Norway, black metal. So
Yeah.
what's the sort of respect or, notoriety that Avatar has? Again, because you're a long-standing band. You've got 9 albums out now. You've started in 2001. What do people think of Avatar back home? Do you win Swedish Grammys?
Uh, no, we don't win a Swedish Grammys, but that's fine. I will. You have to forgive me, but I will save you some angry comments by correcting you one thing. Entomb, Dismember, death metal, yes. Swedish, yes. Gothenburg, no. Stockholm, death
Ah,
metal,
gotcha. Yeah, wrong
which is
cities.
equally important, or some would
Yes,
argue even more important than the Gothenburg stuff. Um, I'm sure you knew that. I just
yes,
want to put it on record, so now we both can tell the world that we know that.
100%.
I mean, as far as the scene goes, and folks are in Gothenburg, and you can be more specific like than that. That I'm from outside of Gothenburg, a place called Lindome. Next to Lindome is another small place called Bildal, and on just a couple of streets there, you have a whole bunch of people that became legends in the scene and in the world. Your Dr. Quilty guys, I guess Anders Fridén from Inflames is from there as well. So he was also in the early days of Dr. Quilty. And then, of course, Tompa Lindberg from At the Gates. And that it's really is a clique of people that managed to branch out in a couple of different bands and set the, kind of lay some groundwork for what came after. But it's very localized to Tiny Gang at the end of the day. Um, and I don't think, and we, there was a scene of, young bands being in, those kind of battle of the bands competitions and stuff and playing youth centers, arranging shows and stuff. And having those good times growing up when we were around as well. But I feel maybe because we are, among the first people, the first children that had modems at home, the way we would relate to the world in terms of where the scene was feels, now think about it, a bit more global, uh, as far as our, just how what influenced us directly. And that being said, what Sweden really, being from Sweden, really did for us, because we are younger than those guys, was that what always helps is that sense of representation, right? That every Swedish town, and Gothenburg in particular, has this, you don't know the town Fagersta. I bet you don't know, but you know of the
Fagerstar, yeah,
hives.
I've heard of that. I've got a Sepultura bootleg recorded in 1989 from that.
You're
That
fucking joking.
I'm serious. I've got it live in Fagerstar.
So you fucked up my rhetoric here. That being said, most people don't know about Fagersta,
Yeah,
but they might hear heard about the hives.
I've
And
heard of the hives. There I
every,
am.
every there you are. Every Fagersta has their own hives.
Hmm.
So that's the thing that we saw it being doable by being where we are from. You could be from where we are and make something out of it.
Hmm.
That helped a lot. And also in the early days, we got to open. In Flames was one of our first major tour was opening for them in Scandinavia. So the opportunities given like that was a network to join in on. All of that helped us tremendously. Then as far as Sweden goes, well, we played Sweden Rock Festival, which is the main heavy music festival in, I would say, in the Nordic countries. It's the biggest one in Europe. Uh, we definitely just this summer turned yet another corner in terms of relationship to our home field. Uh, so it's doing well enough, but we had to travel around a lot in the world, or that northwestern hemisphere that thinks it's the world, um, for us to really start to come home and do that right. But I mean, yeah, people like us in Sweden too, or those who get it, they get it, which is true for any place.
Yeah, we had the same thing in Australia to a degree. Some bands end up leaving here because people say, you're useless. AC/DC, that's exactly what happened to them. And as soon as they blow up, we reclaim them back. It's kind of
Mm.
an Australian thing, unfortunately. But like I said, so you felt like you had to build a name outside of Sweden because most were just like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then now seeing people starting to notice just what a presence you've created in different territories that they've sort of started taking it seriously. Because again, 9 albums in, that's not a small amount of music.
No, it isn't. But it's funny when people point out that we started in 2001, which is 100% true. But the thing is, we really grew up with this band.
Mm.
So those are 14, 15-year-old kids. You spend your first years learning how to not have so much feedback in the rehearsal room and tune the guitars and growing like that and putting out demos and everything. It's like, it's not a 20-year-old career. It's just this has been our lives. It's a career now, but also if it would stop being a career at some point, if there would still be an avatar. I believe at this point in life, it's just so ingrained in the brotherhood is so strong that it goes beyond. It was a brotherhood and it was a passion before it was a job, and the passion, the excitement of doing it is pretty much the same. I would say, actually argue I'm having even more fun and more excited about things now than even in being a kid with everything ahead of you.
Did you have a vision of taking the band, like one day, if we get that chance, we'll have this on the stage and all that sort of stuff? Sort of, did you visualize that approach of wanting to take the band to where it is now, having that opportunity to create big theatrical stage shows and things like that? Was that always sort of an earlier vision when you guys sort of formed?
I think so, to a degree, absolutely. I mean, you're not always able to articulate everything early on because yes, the artistry improves over time as well. But yeah, to really, I think that was the thing. Like I was in another band with some other friends before I was in Avatar, and stylist, it was something else. It wasn't metal. It was some weird attempt of just jamming and being a bit funky and whatnot, and just. But for in the first year at least, those guys were much better musicians. But that was it. With Avatar, it immediately clicked that sense of drive and that this will to be much better tomorrow than we were yesterday, uh, and going places, and that we're gonna take over the world. Again, the guitars were out of tune and
Mm.
hadn't have barely written a single song together yet, but still that drive, that sense of like, yeah, of course, it's obvious.
Yep.
Um, which it's always like I imagine early Metallica was kind of like that, really starting out, but and that made me pick Avatar over whatever else happened in the basement of the school I was at. Uh, And so yeah, that sense of vision, but but doesn't mean that I didn't know that I didn't discover that I was a clown until much later, of course. So the specifics of it came over time.
Now, speaking of the cover of the latest album, Dance Devil Dance, have you had people say Alice Cooper? Because when I saw it, I was like, wow.
Uh, Not with the latest album, but I also wear certain songs. I wear a red coat on and a hat and a cane.
Hmm.
But it's part of a tradition, and Alice Cooper's been a huge influence. So that's certainly part of it. Then there's Brandon Lee. Then there's also
Yep,
for me,
The Crow. I was going to
if
mention that one too.
if people have fine enough taste to know their pro wrestling history and stuff like that, then there could be Ultimate Warrior and Sting and the Road Warriors as well.
Yep.
So it's a bunch, and then Clockwork Orange. If you walk around with suspenders, hat and cane,
Yeah,
smile
Blockos.
menacingly. The Joker. But it just proves that there are. It's a tradition, to paint your face and go out there. It's kabuki theater, for that matter. Uh, this is part of that. And with the latest album cover, no, it hasn't been said more with that one than anything else really. But it also kind of boils down that again, it's one of those things that you learn over the years, and that gives me peace in just doing whatever we want to do. Is that the people who get it, they get it. The people who don't, they don't, and that's fine too. Um, so yeah,
The consistency of this band is very strong. Some bands take 5 years to put out an album, 4 years, but I mean, you're sort of sitting on 2 to 3, give or take, with the last couple of years delayed. So,
mm-hmm.
and being a full time band, I mean, again, God bless the home studio access and things like that now. It just shows how much more productive artists can become. But how picky are you now when it comes to creating music for Avatar 9 albums in? How do you keep it fresh?
Well, it just hit me that um, I just now while having breakfast, I watched a thing about Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yep.
They did 6 albums in 2.5 years. So
Wow.
there's I mean, it used to be way more intense than it is now. Or Beatles who have entire one whole week off to write their album and stuff. So I don't know how much home studio has to do with it, but in our case, certainly it's practical to have something to record on. But it was a tape recorder before that, and or a Porta studio or whatever. So people always found the ways, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how to keep it fresh? Well, we actively look for ways to keep it fresh. We actively look for what was wrong with whatever we did just recently. What almost like doing music as a reaction to what you did before, because you really want to nail it. You're chasing a dragon, um, chasing the high of nailing something for the first time and stuff. So that addiction in itself makes us actively look for what's hard, what don't we know exactly how to figure out. So there's something we create problems for ourselves to solve, and don't stick to a formula. And also very harsh on. You have to write a lot of music to, you know, we at least we try to put out songs that you haven't heard yet, and that has to start with us feeling that is songs that we haven't heard yet, that we haven't played yet, and so that mindset in itself just forces you, and it gets hard sometimes, but it's also it makes it easier in the sense that it's a very inspired way to work.
Yeah,
So
I
you
mean,
just put the
like I
time.
mentioned, 9 albums in, some bands just sort of phone it in. You kind of know you're going to get the same record next album, the same production. There's not much of a risk, just because competing now with more bands than ever before, and things like
Mm.
that. Some bands are playing it safe that further into their career, so it's almost like it's kind of, yeah, metal by numbers to a degree, where it's just that. But obviously challenging yourselves
Yeah,
is very vital. Do you take much feedback too from audiences and fans when the new records sort of come out?
the thing is that people only reach out if they like it most of the time, so it's one-sided and
Yeah.
nice and enjoyable, but it has to come from within, right? And yeah, painting metal by numbers is definitely an issue in the world, and also just, I guess, modern way of recording things, or not always, but how people can record things if they choose to, uh, gives some issues for metal today. I have a couple of problems with it, and our album now is an answer to that. with that a lot of modern metal is best enjoyed if you sit down and shut up.
Yep.
That seems like a mistake. That is not what metal did to me growing up. So we run in the opposite direction of that, and it goes into, for instance, production. I think the most clear, it's true for any instrument on the album or any performance, but the most evident one is always the drums, where you might have your drummer record there, or you may not. You might use a drum machine, but even if you use your drummer, you can still tighten up, quantize it on the computer. Okay, so you remove that human swing, that
Yep.
inner clock,
Snap
the
to the
little
grid.
mistakes that makes the beauty spots, and then also maybe you're not so confident about where we recorded. We recorded in a bedroom in a cabin, uh, but maybe you don't trust the sound that you have around you and that moment in time that you are a part of. So instead you go and buy a sample bank by some North Swedish drum god, so wanting to sound like he does exactly, but you weren't there and you're not him. So all you've done is scrub off all the DNA of one of your players, and suddenly you sound like everything, and therefore you sound like nothing.
Yep.
So there are issues like that also that makes it very standardized, the sounds and everything, where we just try to build in things we cannot fully control and see if we get lucky, because then you always get to something, and then it always will sound, then it sounds special without you even having to try to sound that special. You just make it happen like that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more about the whole, things can just be overproduced today just because of the luxury of home studios and the technology. It's like we were sort of the masters of it. Now we're enslaved to it. And our ears as fans are also programmed to hear a mistake if an artist is playing without using clicks or whatever and they sound a little bit loose. Some people go, oh, that's pretty bad. It's because we're now conditioned for snap to the grid, quantized style metal where everything is just perfect to the note. And I think to a degree it's kind of taken out the magic. Like when you hear those early metal records, Judas Priest, Van Halen, even Metallica as well,
Mm.
there's this sort of, you can feel that desperation that they were on the clock, they were on the budget, 4 days to record that record. And that's where I think the magic of that is lost a little
Yeah,
bit today just
but
because of luxuries.
I think people feel that too once they
Mm.
hear the good stuff. That's why, that is why when they used Master of Puppets and Stranger Things and a whole world of a generation of, wait a minute, what's this? And how that can become a world hit again
It's
is
incredible.
exactly for what it is. So I think it's more musicians who are at fault than the audience. Because people respond extremely well. This is a really well reviewed, well received album we did. Um, might even be the best so far for us in that sense. And so I think people, when they hear good, they feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it's more like musicians, especially in metal, being stuck on they play too much for other musicians.
Yep.
So they lose the purpose of the true communal aspect of what making music and sharing, performing music is. But if you believe in that, audience will find that, and so we lean on, again, the songwriting. It's supposed to be songs you haven't heard yet. We want to bring metal to the next level, but we want to bring with us to that level what made it good to begin with. And still, nothing has sounded better than Ace of Spades or Electric Eye or whatever from each era
Mm-hmm.
of people nailing it. So I just think a lot of musicians are cowards.
100%. Many of them. We could do a big list one day. We'll check out the tour dates quickly, Johannes, because I know you've got a bunch of other chats to do. So the first show does kick off on Friday, the 25th of August at 170 Russell, the 26th at the Metro in Sydney, and on Sunday, August the 27th at the Triffid in Brisbane. Any little quick thoughts of things you're looking forward to for being in Oz for the first time?
The beauty when you go the first time is that it takes a little, because this will be a tight trip where, aside from sneaking out of the venue, looking around the neighborhoods, I might not have this. I don't get to swim in the Barrier Reef this time. You know what I mean? If I don't see a kangaroo, I will be pissed off, of course. But aside from that, the beauty of the first time is that everything is new. It takes a little. Oh, this street light is a bit. So what app do they use to pay their parking meters? Oh, you go inside a grocery store and like they sell that. by the pound. That's weird. Oh, you know, like so.
Yeah.
So that first impression of everything will make it takes so little, and I look forward to that because that first impression thing you only get that once,
Yep.
and then over time, because you know, people make sure to show up, buy a ticket, come to the show, help us make that statement that makes it possible for us to come back over and over again. It's all about nailing it the first time. This is our foot in the door. But once coming back, yeah, I'm gonna what's it called, Ayers Rock, that big thing in the
Yep.
wilderness and
Ayers
stuff.
Rock.
I'm gonna at some point I'm gonna knock everything off the list. Like we've been to Grand Canyon in the U.S. We're gonna do that over time. But now I'm gonna look at the pavement and go, point. And I look forward to that. It sounds weird, maybe, but it's true.
No, it's cool. Just capture it and put it up on your TikTok or Instagram. So we can get you to choose your favourite track from the latest album, Dance Devil Dance, one song from any of the catalogue, and just one of your favourite classic heavy metal songs of all time, Johannes.
Okay, I can't pick favorites, but I wouldn't mind to give On the Beach. Oh, yes, because On the Beach is also the name of an Australian novel that very much inspired the song. So let's play On the Beach from the latest album.
Yep.
I should have mentioned it in way more Australian interviews, I realized. But let's do that one.
Yep.
And from the catalog at large, I mean, okay, the riff that Vinnie Paul told Tim that if Dimebag would have heard, we'd be able to hear it in the grave, he might rise up from it. So rest in peace to both of them and play Hail the Apocalypse.
Well, that's a statement.
Not rest in peace, wake the fuck up.
Yep.
Actually. And in general, some heavy metal song. Well, I just mentioned Judas Priest and Electric Eye, so let's do that one.
Awesome. All right, let's check out some Avatar right here on andrewhogue.com, and I thank you for your time, Johannes. Look forward to having you in odds very shortly. Let's hear some Avatar.
Thank you so much.